Guys, welcome on into Three Bold Takes. I am Freddie, joined by Quinn here. And after an incredible week of college football last week, there was almost some huge upsets, some overtime games, last second heroic plays, things of that nature. We're going to move on to the next week of college football, which I believe is week 12, according to the schedule. And to open it off, we have an ACC game on Friday night at 6:30 between Clemson and Louisville. And this is not your everyday Clemson. We're well aware. They're 4-5 currently. However, Quinn, we talked about this last week. They won the loser fires their head coach game. Big deal. Big deal for the Clemson Tigers. Won 24-10. However, Louisville did fall to Cal in overtime. That was one of the upsets that I was speaking of earlier. 29-26 in overtime. This game currently, it looks like Louisville is favored by 3.5 at home with a 54% chance to win.
Yeah, I'll start with this. Clemson is coming in a scary place. I would not, because let's look, they've had their issues, clearly. They're still a super talented football team. Like the talent level at Clemson's there. It's just a coaching issue, I guess. I don't know what you can chalk it up to, but obviously the Jimmies and Joes, they're not lacking in that department.
Yeah.
They're in a situation, and I know Dabo Sweeney is insane about this. They're going to do everything in their power to get to 6 wins.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in their power to get to 6 wins. They have 3 games left, and they need to win 2 of them. Now, if I'm South Carolina, I'm like crying, knowing that they're probably going to beat my brains in because they care so much about that game. But there's still 2 games left, and they got to win one of them. Here's what's playing in Louisville's favor, because I would be just mashing the Clemson button. They're coming in off the big win over Florida State. I'd be hammering that call. Wasn't for the fact that Cal just beat Louisville. I know that makes you go, oh, well, Louisville's not that good. They can lose. And I get where you go to that thought. They just slipped up. They're going to be more dialed in now than they would have been if they escaped from Cal. Friday night games in the ACC get weird, man.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in me is telling me to go Clemson because they're in like desperation to get to 6 wins mode. But I don't see Louisville caving 2 weeks in a row to inferior opponents. I think they learned their lesson with the Cal game. I think they come in more dialed in, more focused, more ready to go for this Clemson game. Give me Louisville to get it done at home on a Friday night, but expect to get your best punch possible from Clemson.
I'm glad that you brought up the fact that Clemson's going to fight to get a bowl game, because I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, the year before, Clemson made the 12-team playoff by winning the ACC. They were in, I think it was the Duke's Mayo Bowl, and traditionally in college football now, that who cares, right? You're in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's one that's right around Christmas, so nobody's watching the game except for the fans of those two teams. That's it, and half of those probably aren't even watching. But the way that Clemson and Dabo treated that game was like it was a national title, and that shows that there is leadership from the top at Clemson, and their issues is from a coaching standpoint, but it's not from um, a traditional coaching standpoint, if that makes sense. Like, I think X's and O's are there. I think leadership is there. I just think it's the direction the program's going with the changes that's happening. And I think that's where they're getting left behind.
I'll give you a little pushback on X's and O's. I think they're average in that department, to be honest with you.
I think the defense is there. Their offense needs some help, and honestly, I think it goes back to Cade Klubnik. They put all their eggs in his basket. For the past 3 years, I mean, this guy was supposed to be a Heisman guy originally. This guy was going to be the next Trevor Lawrence. Like there was so much hype around this guy, and he has not panned out to any sort of expectation.
Either did
Which
DJ Uiagalelei either. That's 2 in a row.
right, like that's what I'm kind of getting at is the defense has always been there. They have the dudes, and like you said, like they have the blue chip players. Like they recruit in the top 5 and top 10 for a reason every year. The difference is they took in what 2 guys in the portal in the offseason. They were one of only 2. I think it was them and Army were the only 2. And here's the thing. Army's not even allowed to use the transfer portal. This guy transferred in because he wanted to go to Army, and it was a whole different deal. It wasn't for his athletic abilities. So when you're talking, you're in a conversation with them, that's where the issues kind of go for me when it comes to like a talent perspective. When you look at Louisville, they're 7-2, and listen, we didn't even talk about that Cal Louisville game last week. And the reason why I didn't really want to talk about it is for the simple fact that Louisville was playing at home. And traditionally speaking, in the new ACC, when a West Coast team travels to an East Coast team and the East Coast team's ranked higher, they're going to win. Vice versa, if the East Coast team travels to the West Coast and the East Coast team is a higher ranked team, they're probably going to lose because that travel's ridiculous. We've seen it the past 2 years now. So that game was not even on my radar. That was a blunder. That was a looking ahead, I think, of, hey, we're ranked 15th in the country. We have a chance to win the conference and this and that. I'm going to go with Clemson here.
Okay.
I just think that the talent's there, and me and you talked about it last week, how we thought that Clemson looked checked out. We thought that Clemson looked uninspired before the Florida State game. And after watching some of that Florida State game, I don't agree with what we talked about. They look like they want to make a bowl game. They look inspired. They look like the leadership level is there. And for that, I'm going to go Clemson. That's the only reason that I have. The talent composite leans Clemson, but season over talent composite, you're looking at Louisville. So it's kind of a toss-up here. The line's at 3.5. You get 3 points for home field advantage, so you're almost looking at a toss-up here, traditionally speaking. So it could be an interesting game on Friday night. I might take a peek at it. Moving on to an 11 o'clock game on Saturday, the game day game of the week here. We have Notre Dame and Pitt. Notre Dame obviously 7-2 on the year coming into the season or coming into this week. Ranked 10th. Now, granted, the new college football playoff rankings have not come out yet, so it could have changed a little bit from there. I doubt it, but there's a possibility. And vice versa for Pitt coming in, and this is AP rankings in the 20s this week after previously not being ranked in the AP poll. I've got some thoughts on this game and game day being there and Pitt being ranked. This seems like a cry to help prop Notre Dame up a little bit more so that they have another reason to put them in the playoffs. Like this would be a ranked win. Now, granted, I personally like to view games as when you play them, that's what they are. So at the end of the year, if they're not ranked, okay, whatever. You beat them when they were ranked, right? There's some different examples of that. Clemson falling off like drastically, LSU drastically, like things like that's different. But this screams conspiracy to me, and I'm gonna put a hat on there for that just so it props Notre Dame up for a ranked win. But that's neither here nor there though. The game specifically, and this is actually insane. I made this graphic you're looking at above me about an hour and a half ago. Currently, Notre Dame's favored by 10.5 points. That has already gone up to 12.5 within an hour. So huge swing there already on the betting lines of this game. Very interesting. Notre Dame has a 77% chance to win. Quinn, I want to hear your thoughts on this game, and I know you don't really like game day being here either.
Yeah, no, I mean, hey, look, game day, ESPN, no SEC bias. They go to significantly better games. Alabama, Oklahoma, Georgia, Texas. But no. No SEC bias from ESPN, okay? They're going to go to the beautiful game, Notre Dame versus Pitt. Look, okay. I'll give you a little pushback, and I want to see what people say in the comments. I think Pitt deserves to be ranked in like the mid 20s, like 22 to 25 range. They deserve that. But let's still call a spade a spade. Notre Dame has 2 ranked wins against average at best teams in USC and Pitt if they win this game. That's all they have on their schedule. It's still a joke of a schedule, whether Pitt's ranked or not. Okay, I don't want to go into this big, huge spiel about who's ranked what, where, when, and why. I think Notre Dame should have been ranked below Miami. Every other team in playoffs was ranked below another team that they lost to if they had the same amount of losses in their loss column. I thought that's how that was supposed to work. I guess not. We're projecting instead of just putting them where they are in the moment. You put Notre Dame where they're supposed to be at about 15th, okay, and let them keep winning, but teams in front of them keep losing, which they will. They'll work their way in. Okay, because now you put yourself in a situation where what happens if all those teams in between Notre Dame and Miami start losing and now we have one spot left. We got to pick between Notre Dame and Miami. And now all of a sudden, even though they've been ranked below them all this time, we're going to flip it at the last second, which is what they'll do. You didn't have to create that problem for yourself. Okay. Todd King. Now let's get back into this. Pitt, man. Y'all hold kingdom, dude. They still play, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, their last 3 games are Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, and Miami.
Let me verify that because I think you're right.
I'm pretty sure that's their
That's right. Yeah.
season. Okay. All 3 of those teams fancy themselves playoff contenders. Pitt could beat any of them. If Pitt beats all of them, hey, Pitt, welcome to the college football playoffs, dude. They're not going to. They're not going to win all 3 of those games. And it's going to start right here. Notre Dame, for all the complaining I have about where they're currently ranked, they should be in the playoffs at the end of the year. From a talent perspective, the way they're playing ball right now, they look like a playoff team. Take that for what you will. Some people don't like eye tests. They look that way. And let's also call another spade a spade. They lost their 2 games in week 1 and week 3 by a combined 4 points.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? They're good. It's not just brand bias for Notre Dame, even though I do think there's a lot of that going on. They're still a good team. They're going to beat Pitt. They're going to get their second quality win against USC and Pitt. And we'll not hear about them again until conference championship week. Oops, sorry. No, the playoffs.
You're right. You're right. It infuriates me that Notre Dame gets to skate by without playing in a conference. I don't care if it's the ACC or the Big Ten. I just prefer them being in a conference. I think that's what college football is about right now. And when they played in the ACC during COVID, that was an awesome year. We had Notre Dame Clemson twice. Like, it was such a good season for college football during COVID. We had all conference games. We had Notre Dame in the ACC. But yeah, that's going to be all for there. I do want to bring attention, and Quinn, you talked about this before we started recording, on the ACC current standings. There's 5 teams currently tied at the top, and they are as follows. You may already know, I know you do, Quinn, but you watching and listening, you may already know. But that's Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, SMU, and Duke. Those are the teams that are all tied with 1 loss in conference play. Holy cow. Now, I know that I talked some junk about Pitt being ranked, right? They shouldn't be ranked. It's just to prop up Notre Dame, whatever. If they put a respectable game on the board against Notre Dame, and when I say respectable, I mean they cover the spread. I don't care if that spread gets all the way up to 14.5. If they cover that spread, that's a respectable performance. Then, because again, that's not a conference loss, because Notre Dame's not in the ACC. you're still atop the conference. And that's something, and I did kind of want to bring this up. I don't know if you saw this on Twitter or not, but Pitt's head coach was asked about the importance of this game, and this really pissed me off. He said we could lose by 100 and it doesn't matter because we'll still only have one conference loss. And it's like, yes, you're right, but what does that project to your players? What does that project to your fans that care if you win or lose a ball game? I don't care if it is Notre Dame. I don't care if it's not a conference game. You go out to win every game. Is that not part of your plan? And to say that you don't care, like he could have said that differently. That's another tangent. That kind of pissed me off. And because of that, I think Notre Dame blows the doors off of Pitt. If you come into that game with that mindset, I don't care if he's joking or not. If you project that, I don't think you have a snowball's chance in Hades in this game. I've got Notre Dame, probably winning by 20-plus points in this game, to be honest with you. And that's going to make Notre Dame look unreal.
And I'll say this right before we close it. You said if they cover the spread, that's respectable. It depends. Let's say that spread gets to like 12.5. You lose by 12. Okay, if you lose by 12 because they scored a touchdown late to put the game away, that's a lot different than if you lose by 12, you scored a touchdown with 30 seconds left to take it from 19 to 12.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
There are caveats around here, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not familiar. in college football, in life, there's caveats always. Yeah, so that's the Notre Dame Pitt game. Game day, do better. You should have went to that Division II or III game, whatever they were talking about. That would have been electric. And moving on to an afternoon game here at Three Bold Takes, we have two teams that are currently atop the ACC standings here in Week 12. Yes, you heard me correct. These two teams above mine and Quinn heads right now are atop the ACC standings. Those two teams are Virginia and Duke. Now, preseason, if you would have told me that, I would have thought, what the heck happened in the ACC? But we've seen it happen over the course of this year so far. So this is an interesting matchup for both of these two teams. They both only have one loss in conference play, as I mentioned. Both are still alive to make the conference championship. Both are still alive to make the playoffs. I know that's a stretch, like when you're talking Virginia, Duke, and I don't care how many losses you have. Talking to Duke here at 5-4. If you win the conference, you're in. It doesn't matter what your out of conference record is. You win the conference, you're in. So there's a chance. And they have a very good chance to get another conference win this week against Virginia, coming in as a 6.5-point favorite at home, with a 60% chance to win, according to ESPN.
Yeah, they say that riding with your preseason predictions is a dumb thing to do. But I can vividly remember telling people, hey, watch out for the Duke Blue Devils. And people would be like, what are you talking about, Duke? I was like, I know. They're this year's SMU. They play a weak ACC schedule. We're going to look up in November and go, oh my goodness, Duke could do this thing. Here we are. Now. One question I have is, how are they ahead of Georgia Tech right now? Because doesn't Georgia Tech have the head-to-head on Duke? Or is it because there's so many teams with one loss that because of the way the algorithm spits out the two teams?
So currently, if you go like based upon like head-to-heads right now, it's Georgia Tech 1, Virginia 2, Pittsburgh 3, SMU 4, Duke 5. But I think Duke is at 5 because they've only played 5 conference games. Everybody else has played 6. So they're one shy in the W column because they haven't played that game yet.
Okay.
Give me Duke, baby. I know it sounds stupid to ride with a Duke has looked so bad, but how ACC would it be for you to look up at the end of November?
Because they can't have really anybody quality left either, do they? They got like Virginia. I know they got.
That's what I wanted to bring up. They've got Virginia this week, then North Carolina, and then Wake Forest.
Yeah, dude. Give me Duke. I think you look at that schedule because Wake Forest is the most We called this, by the way. I'm pretty sure we called this last week where we were talking about Wake Forest and Virginia. Wake Forest is the most up and down football team on the planet. It's like one week they're going to be high and then the next week they're going to drop. But
I think Duke gets this done. I think it's at home. I think Virginia's shaking. I don't think they can handle the spotlight. Now, granted, neither can Duke. None of these real players, other than Georgia Tech, I believe in Georgia Tech, but none of these teams at the tippity top here can really hold the spotlight. But I would not. They win this game, they're a lot to go to the ACC title game. So give me Duke to get it done at home against Virginia, and then we're looking in North Carolina, in Charlotte, North Carolina, in championship weekend, going, man, is Duke about to make the college football playoff as a 4-loss football team? And the answer, maybe.
And see, like, that's what's crazy because we're over here talking about, and we did this before, like 3-loss teams making the playoffs. It happened last year, and the conversation is, well, can it happen? Yes, it did last year, and the only reason is because they won the conference. I cannot believe we're in a situation right now, Quinn, where Duke has 4. They just got beat by UConn.
Yeah.
UConn. And we're talking about them potentially playing for the ACC championship game. Oh my gosh, that's unreal. I'm gonna ride with Duke too. I'm gonna ride with them as well. I thought Virginia was way overhyped to begin with. Whenever it came to the playoffs rankings, I thought Georgia Tech was very disrespected, being ranked behind both Louisville and Virginia. That's just my own opinions, and if you watch the football games, you would understand that. And don't just box score watch and you see a 12-point loss to NC State. As you say all the time, Quinn, NC State's one of those teams that will win these games. Every year they're going to win those games against somebody. That's just who they are. It's who they always have been. So it didn't really come as a big shock there. But what is a big shock is the Duke Blue Devils have a chance to actually play for the ACC championship game with 4 losses. We're talking about a team. Oh my gosh, we're talking about a team that is 2 games above bowl eligibility if they win out.
Yeah.
And they're in the conference championship. That's crazy. That's crazy. Now, granted, chaos has to happen above them too, because Georgia Tech does hold the tiebreaker over them currently. And then I'm not sure because of their weak schedule, their opponent's winning percentage will probably be lower, so they may be kicked out due to the tiebreakers and things like that too.
How much chaos really has to occur, though, because Georgia Tech and Pitt play each other. One of them's going to eliminate one of those. And then Virginia, they can eliminate. So that just leaves Louisville and SMU.
And we just talked to Louisville.
Let's talk about Louisville, and they could lose to Clemson, so that just leaves SMU. And let's be real, SMU ain't been the most impressive team on the planet this year.
Yeah.
They're telling me they can't get upset? I'm just saying.
I mean, SMU's 7-3 on the year too. I mean, they haven't looked too impressive, like you said. I guess I just hope. I just want to hope that it would take chaos for Duke to play.
what the ACC championship game is SMU and Duke?
Can we just take 3 Big 12 teams instead of an ACC? No, can we take 2 Group of 5 teams instead of the ACC champion?
Hey, don't sleep on James Madison, dude. They might be the G5 rep because nobody.
They very well could be. And moving on to a Big Ten matchup, ladies and gentlemen, that is right. It's still weird to see Southern Cal in as a Big Ten team. I'm going to be honest with you here. But we've got Iowa and USC at 2:30. Iowa, as we all know and watched last week, was so close to beating Oregon. Me and Quinn called that Iowa would win and backdoor the way into the playoffs. That now is not going to happen, unfortunately. However, they have a chance to play spoiler for a team that nobody's talking about, that has a real possibility to get into the college football playoffs at 10-2. And that's USC. Now, granted, their schedule, they have Oregon coming up after Iowa, so obviously if they win that game, people are going to be talking about them. But right now, as we speak, not getting a lot of love. Vegas is giving them some love, though. However, they're favored by 6.5 against Iowa, with a 75% chance to win, according to ESPN.
Yeah, man, USC is a really interesting unit. They have their 2 losses. One is in a non-conference game to Notre Dame, which, as we discussed earlier, is a really good football team. And then their other one is a road trip to Illinois where they had multiple players miss that game. It was just an awkward spot for USC.
It was a 2-point loss, too.
Yeah, it was close. It was a last-second field goal for Illinois to win the game. USC, it's not out of the realm of possibility. This game's in Southern Cal, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not out of the realm of possibility for me to believe that they could take down Oregon. I'm not convinced Oregon's a good team. Like you said, we got on here on Sunday before Herb Street made it vogue to pick Iowa to beat Oregon. We were on here saying Iowa's going to get Oregon in this spot. It just felt like a spot where they could nab the Ducks. And I thought there for a minute when they scored, I mean, yeah, they missed the 2-point conversion, but when they went up 16-15, I was like,
Freddie, defense is locking in.
I was like, Freddie, we're genius. Oregon's not going down the field in the rain. Look at us. And then lo and behold, there they go. Right down the field.
Which, by the way, the ESPN app was wrong. They gave Iowa the 2-point conversion, so I was following along with it on my phone. And I was like, oh, they just went up 3. And I was like, okay, bet. Oregon's not going to score a touchdown. They may go to overtime. Turns out 2-point conversion didn't count.
Did they leave it on there after the instant replay? Because what had happened is
it was on there for a while.
Okay, because they called it the successful 2-point conversion, and then when the replay took another look at it, his foot was out of bounds, so it wasn't a completed pass. But man, look, we talked about it with the ACC. It's also happened in the Big Ten. It's hard for these teams to go 2 time zones over because Iowa's going to go from Central Time. Now, luckily for them, it's not quite as bad with the ACC teams or a handful of the Big Ten teams who are going from the Eastern Time Zone all the way to that Pacific Time Zone. But you're still going 2 time zones over, going from the middle of nowhere in Iowa all the way out to LA. It's going to be a crazy time zone difference. Now, the crowd's not going to be insane because the people in LA are busy caring about the Lakers and the Dodgers, not the USC Trojans. And the Rams this year, they're not doing half bad. But I still think USC is going to get this done here. I think USC is one of those teams that nobody's talking about. Iowa's coming off a tough loss. They're in a tough travel situation, having to go on the road to USC. They're not one of those fan bases like Michigan or Ohio State who are going to travel all the way out to LA and pack the stadium in their own favor. Not that worked for Michigan this year when they did that. Just looking at you, Sharon Moore. But yeah, now give me USC. And again, nobody's talking about that USC win over Michigan. That was a huge win. I think you're going to have another good win here. And then the buzz is going to start popping up around USC as a potential sleeper pick for the playoff if they get it done against Oregon. And I'm curious to see if that's going to kill Oregon in the playoff. We'll see. So if USC beats Iowa and then USC beats Oregon after Washington loses to Wisconsin, what's Oregon's big win? Like, you get to the end of the year and you're arguing for a 10-2 team with wins over no ranked opponents in the CFP committee's final rankings. And while you, Freddie, feel like you should go by what they were ranked as when you play them, that's not how the selection committee does it.
Yeah,
it's not. And so you're going to be looking at it and going, you've beaten nobody who's ranked. 2 ranked teams you played beat you. Then USC has to go to Oregon too, don't they?
I believe that is correct.
So in this scenario, you lost those games at home. You lost to your only 2 ranked opponents at home. I'd be interested to see where the committee gets back into that, but that's down the road. USC, Iowa, give me USC.
Yeah, I'm going to go USC as well. You outlined it. Yeah, like you're going 2 time zones over. Luckily, it's a 2:30 game. If this is an 11 o'clock game, golly, that's a tough spot to go 2 time zones backwards and then play an 11 o'clock game. I could not imagine doing that. But anyway, Iowa, the only thing that gets me about this game, though, is that defense travels. And Iowa's defense, like, you can say what you want to about their offense, which, hey, they've scored 30-plus points in multiple games this year. So let's just give it a little clapperooski for that one. But defense travels, and minus Notre Dame, and maybe I wouldn't even say Michigan, minus Notre Dame, this is going to be the best defense the USC's played up to date, I would say, as a whole unit. So I'm more interested to see how Lincoln Riley navigates that when it comes to when they do play Oregon, who has a decent defense. They're not top tier, but they're also not bottom tier in any category. So this could be a tune-up game, and I hate to use that for Iowa because, listen, I love Iowa. They're 9-3, 10-2 every single year. And one of these years, they're going to get in the playoffs. I'm just going to go ahead and throw that out there. They're going to backdoor their way into the playoffs. And they're going to give a scare to somebody with their 15-20 loss or their 18-16 loss, just like it happened last week. But that's beside the point. Could use this as a tune-up game for the Oregon game because that is going to be the ultimate test for USC and Lincoln Riley. And listen, man, like, say what you want to about Lincoln Riley. Yes, he's kind of underperformed, but when you look at what USC has, man, like, they're not getting the money that they used to get back when it was illegal. They don't have the advantages like you would think an LA-based team would out in California because they just don't put money into the program. They don't have good attendance at the games, and I think for what Lincoln Riley has at USC, he's done a fairly decent job. And it seems like every year at this point, we're kind of talking about USC potentially making the playoffs. Now, he's got to do it at some point, though. He's got to make the playoffs and get it done. Is that this year? I don't know, but it's got to happen at some point. And I think they are treading in the right direction, sitting here at 7-2. Curious to see where they're going to be ranked in the new committee's rankings. Guys, for those of you who don't know, we record this before the playoff rankings come out, as they come out on Tuesday. So curious to see where they're ranked with 3 or 4 teams ahead of them losing last weekend. So they could be already on the fringe of the 12-team playoff. Moving on to some SEC action here at 2:30. We have the Oklahoma Sooners coming to T-Town to play the Alabama Crimson Tide. Looks like Alabama comes in as a 6.5-point favorite at home against the Sooners here with, this is a 71% chance to win according to ESPN. And FYI, 87% of America has picked Alabama to win in the ESPN Pick'ems app.
That's crazy. Let me tell you why. One, let's start with stuff that doesn't matter as much before we get into the actual ball. Oklahoma's a bugaboo for Alabama. I think they're 4-2 all time against Alabama. It's not been a great series matchup for the Tide, right? Like, Oklahoma kind of owns them in that regard. Two, Oklahoma is coming in and back against the wall, got to win out to get to the playoffs mode, right? Because I think if you're Oklahoma, you're sitting behind Texas in the tiebreaker, but you're looking at Texas's remaining schedule going, okay, they got to play Georgia and they got to play A&M. Odds are they're probably going to lose one of those 2 games. Meanwhile, if I'm Oklahoma, this is my last road game. Then I come home and I get to play a Missouri team without their starting quarterback and an LSU team being run by a clown show. That's pretty favorable for Oklahoma, frankly, to get to 10-2 if they can get through this game in Tuscaloosa. Now, if you're Alabama, how sweet would it be to ruin Oklahoma's chances at making the college football playoff after they did that to you last year? A lot of the guys that were on the team last year are still on the team this year, so that's going to be factored into this a little bit. X's and O's wise, let's start with what Oklahoma's going to do that stresses Alabama. Offensively, the quarterback run has been an issue for the Tide. It stresses that 4-2-5 defense in a way that there's no. Yeah, you can. I've seen people in the comments counter with, "Oh, running quarterback stresses everyone's defense," and yeah, that's true. It stresses a 4-2-5 in a lot more
Much worse.
than it does other defensive
You
packs.
can't play a quarterback spy. You just can't, because then you're stretched out wide crazy. So yeah,
No.
you're right.
So that's going to be an interesting aspect to watch on that side of the ball. And on the other side of the ball, this is going to be the best defensive front you've played all year. I watched LSU's defensive front push you around a little bit. I watched Missouri's push you around a lot. I watched South Carolina's defense
Mm-hmm.
bow up big time. They had their best game of the year on a defensive front standing against you. That Alabama passing game has been a little off their last 2 games. They were missing on some open shots against South Carolina and against LSU.
Mm-hmm.
Miss on those open shots on Oklahoma, and that ball's going the other way. Now, what does Alabama do that stresses Oklahoma? If Oklahoma's not getting pressure, there are serious questions about that secondary. And I do not like that secondary chances going up against this receiving. It's a lot of weapons to have to cover. Got as many questions as you got.
Mm-hmm.
Other side of the ball, I'm a tear, man. Since the injury, he'd been soaring passes. Like, yeah, you can say, oh, we beat Tennessee and look what he did in the second half. Okay, in the first half, you were winning the game strictly off what your defense did. And I hate to tell you, you're not going to force that many turnovers on Ty. You're going to get a sack. You're going to get a strip sack in the second half. That's a guarantee. But you're not going to get 2 freebie picks to set up 2 55-yard field goals by your swim trunk model of a kicker. Like, that's not happening. Okay? I picked Oklahoma to be a playoff team at the beginning of the year. I've been saying Alabama's going to lose at least one conference game. For both of those to be right, this kind of has to go Oklahoma's way. I don't see Auburn, with how dysfunctional they've been, winning the Iron Bowl, even if they're in a 5-6 scenario where winning it gets them to do a bowl game. And they're going to play with their hair on fire. I just don't see it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Oklahoma. I think Alabama's been playing with their food a little bit these last 2 games. And who knows? Maybe that means they dial in. They do play differently when they play ranked opponents. But I just think this is going to be the game. They match up so well on that defensive front against Alabama. I think they get some pressure on Simpson, force some uncharacteristic mistakes. Mateer's able to make enough big plays to get them in scoring range. Oklahoma gets it done. I'm gonna take the Sooners 26-23.
So tight game there.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, Oklahoma comes into this game after a bye week, which yet again another opponent of Alabama's is coming in to a game after a bye week. But when you look at
half of their conference schedule,
and it's it's whatever, I'm not going to say anything about that. That's just poor scheduling. However, when you looked at Oklahoma's last outing, yes, they beat Tennessee, but John Mateer did not play well at all. I mean, I don't care what you say. Yeah, the second half, whatever. But you still look at his end of the game stat line: 19 of 29, 160 yards passing, 0 touchdowns and an interception. They had 200 yards rushing. So that's how they won that game. And if you look at Joey Aguilar, he had almost 400 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, but he did have the 2 interceptions. So that also helped Oklahoma get in plus territory there. Oklahoma held Tennessee to 63 rushing yards. And for a Tennessee team that is a pretty decent runner of the football, that's impressive. Now, it leads to an interesting matchup here because that's Oklahoma's strength is their run defense. Well, heck, Alabama can't run the ball anyway. So how is that strength really going to show here if Bama can only really run the ball 50 to 80 yards a game anyway? Right now, I think the breakdown on plays is about I think it's 85% pass to 15% run whenever you look at the full breakdown of the games. What I want to see from Alabama here on the offensive side is I want to see Ty Simpson make quick decisions. When they went on that run and he was the Heisman caliber quarterback and contender, it was quick decisions. It was quick reads. It wasn't getting 3-4 deep in the progression. You've got pressure on the outside, so then you overthrow or underthrow a ball. That's what's been happening the past couple of weeks. And some of that's on the offensive line. Some of that also is on Ty Simpson not being as I guess, confident in his initial pre-snap read to know that that's where he wants to go with the football. Now, he can make some great plays while going the second and third progression, but that's when you get in that kind of that hurry-up mode.
And some of that's also South Carolina and LSU are two of the better defensive back rooms in the SEC.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that Oklahoma's secondary is of question because I agree with that. Let's be honest with you. Joey Aguilar is not that great of a quarterback, and for him to throw over almost 400 yards, your secondary is trash. That's just what that tells me. Now, I'm not saying Joey Aguilar's trash, but he's definitely not a video game number type of quarterback when it comes to passing the football against a defense that is formidable. Now, John Mateer, like you mentioned, has been kind of iffy since he's come back. I think he's getting a little bit better week by week, and this bye week's going to do him real justice, I believe, on getting the timing back right on some of the plays. I think that's the biggest thing there. And I think on the Alabama side, coming out of a bye week, timing was off. They were sluggish. They were slow to start the game. So I think those things may be fixed as well. Just because Alabama's at home here, I'm going to go with Alabama because Kalen DeBoer is undefeated in Tuscaloosa. They've got, a 16-game home win streak, 17-game, whatever it is. They lead the country in a home win streak. It's not an easy place to play. And I think there is going to be some revenge in the mouth and on the mind for Alabama here. So, I think they're going to come out a little bit more fiery than Oklahoma is, even though Oklahoma's back is against the wall. So that's going to be an interesting matchup in and of itself as a mindset game. You've got a revenge, and then you got back against the wall. So which one of those is going to win? Which one do you want more? Do you want revenge, or do you really just can't take another loss? And I think all that's going to be played out in the first quarter, and then that's gone. Because that's like once you get to the first quarter and get in the game, all your pregame scripts, all your pregame emotions are gone. You're in the football game. And that's where these matchups that me and you talked about are really going to shine. And I think those favor Alabama when you look at the full unit. However, I would not be surprised if Bama lost this game. I just wouldn't. But here's another question. I mean, if Bama wins this game, they're in the SEC championship game.
Yes.
And remember last year, if they beat Oklahoma, and the theory was if you beat Oklahoma, you're in the playoffs. So can that mindset creep in as well? Of all we got to do is this, and if we do this, then we achieve a goal. And that's another issue there. But I think they've got that sorted out this year compared to last year, especially since the first week loss. Yeah, it should be a very, very interesting game and a fun game, one of the better ones of the weekend. And we're actually about to talk about the one that is eerily similar to this one, rankings and spread-wise. So stay tuned for that one. In the nightcap, we also have a huge SEC matchup here between two teams that are in a very similar situation to the game that we just got done talking about. That game being Oklahoma and Alabama. This one is Texas and Georgia at 6:30. Georgia's a 6.5-point favorite at home with a 59% chance to win according to ESPN. Quinn, which way are you leaning in this one? This is a very pivotal matchup here.
This is a huge game. Okay, Texas is another team, just like Oklahoma, that's back against the wall mode. Georgia's a team that can afford a loss. I'm not really sure. They don't want to lose to Texas. I don't want anyone to think that's what I'm trying to say here. It's just they still have a rivalry game with Georgia Tech at the end of the year where they can get a quality ranked win there and go in as a 10-2 team, probably still get a first-round bye. It'll just change which number seed they are. Instead of 5, You know what I mean? Like that's really all that's at stake for Georgia in this game. Georgia's chance to make the SEC title game is pretty slim at this point. I guess their path is A&M loses a game and they win this game because this is their last SEC game of the year. So it's not an impossible path. I mean, you're telling me, oh, how impossible is it that Texas A&M goes and loses to their daddy, Texas, in Austin? It's not that shocking to me. The question I have is Texas for real? You know, I came on here and I got slammed for it. After the Ohio State Texas game, I said both of these teams are still going to be in the playoff.
Yeah.
And I think fairly, you pushed back and said, I don't know, that Texas offense looked bad. And I was like, no, it was the Ohio State defense is elite. Both of those were true, actually. The offense wasn't very good, and Ohio State's defense was elite. Georgia has struggled to start fast, minus the Kentucky game and the Mississippi State game. Congratulations, you started fast on Kentucky and Mississippi State. This Texas defense is good, so I guess they started fast on Ole Miss too. Also a great defense though. I don't think they're going to start fast on Texas's defense. Let's just call that what it is. So the question is, will Texas keep up this energy they've had in the comeback against Mississippi State? So let's start at the start of the fourth quarter of the Mississippi State game and then the full Vandy game. Do they bring that energy offensively? If they do, they could pull this off. Their offense could score enough points early that defense could keep Georgia from coming back. Here's what I keep settling on when it comes to Oklahoma and Texas. And I know their fans are going to get mad when I say it. It's going to take a couple years for them to adjust to these road venues. We've already seen it with Texas this year. They played like garbage against Florida. They lost to Florida. Okay. Mm-hmm. They should have lost to Mississippi State and to Kentucky. Overtime wins over Mississippi State and Kentucky and a loss to Florida on the road. That's their road performances in SEC play. Newsflash, that atmosphere in Athens is going to be way tougher than anything else I just listed. Because even though Georgia doesn't need this win, they want this win. You kidding me? The Georgia fans would love to eliminate Texas and continue to laugh at them. We beat you in your place. We beat you in Atlanta, and now we beat you in our place. It's 3 up, 3 down. Get out of here. This is our conference. Should have never left the Big 12. That's going to be the attitude that fan base has when you come into their house. Part of me loves to believe in the narrative that Texas is going to just miraculously save their season here at the end of the year. But I don't see it. I think they exposed a Vandy team that, frankly, it's just lucky to be where they're at. Vandy should have had more, and credit to them, they closed games out well. But they had to go on the road to a big boy stadium and they got pantsed.
Yep.
Just like they did when they went to Tuscaloosa, just like they will when they go to Knoxville. Spoiler alert. I just don't like them in this spot, having to go on the road to Athens in true road venues. Because the Cotton Bowl for Oklahoma, it's not a home game, but it's not a road game either. It's a true neutral. So I like Georgia in this spot. I don't know how they're going to do it. But unless you have a script A on your chest, you're not beating Georgia. Like you just that's the only team that has proven that they can do it. I mean, sure, they've had other losses here and there. They lost to Ole Miss last year. They lost a game to Florida in COVID season. But, it's really hard to put Georgia down. So give me the Bulldogs.
I think something's interesting. This is the third matchup that we've seen between Texas and Georgia within the past 2 seasons. They played twice last year and then this one. Fun fact, Texas A&M has been in the SEC for 13 years now, and Georgia Texas A&M has played one time. So glad that we're going to a 9-game conference schedule in the SEC. Just wanted to bring that up because it's really upsetting. We don't have matchups that we should get, and now we're finally going to get them with the way that the schedule is going to rotate. That's a tangent that I wanted to talk about, and I'm glad I did. Because we've seen these two teams play. Now, granted, these teams are different from last year to this year. I get that. I'm not trying to draw comparisons, all that stuff. But what I am going to say is I'm going to stand 10 toes down on what I said after that Ohio State game, and I'm glad you brought that up. Texas' offense is trash. I don't care if Arch Manning looks good in 1 or 2 games here or there. They're not what they were supposed to be.
Let me pose this to you just real quick.
Okay.
His numbers when he's not pressured are really, really, really good. And Georgia has been insanely bad at pressuring the quarterback.
Hey, 80 good against 80 good last week.
They did good against State. The offensive linemen at State are not
Yeah.
offensive
Yeah.
linemen.
But has Arch played well on the road?
Yeah.
Has Arch played well against teams to the caliber of Georgia? Sort of. Because they haven't really played many.
I'll say this: Arch played good on the road against State, but take that for what? Which
I just don't see a world where Texas goes into Athens, Georgia, and beats Georgia. I see a way it happens when you talk just football and no external factors. But that's not what college football is. That's what the NFL is about. College football is all about external factors. College football is all about going on the road and your first time going into a place, and all about these different storylines that are within the game here. Kirby Sark. Sark, there's a whole bunch of things about Sark calling plays, how he should step down from that or what have you. And then there's the thing with Kirby of, well, your defense really isn't what it used to be. So there's all these different storylines, and that's why I love college football so much. Because you never know what's going to happen on any given Saturday. And that is a plug to the SEC documentary on Netflix. So go watch it if you haven't. I just don't see a world where Texas is going to be able to win. Can they? Sure. Are they talented enough? Yes. So, like, Sarkisian's a great coach. He has the ability. Texas has the ability. I think Arch Manning is a good quarterback. I just think he was unfairly hyped for no reason early on. And that's the problem, is that all we do is we focus on what the hype was, and he's not living up to that, which is unfair to him because he shouldn't have been the highest rated high school recruit ever. It was just because of the name on the back of his jersey. I'm a firm believer in that, and that's no shot at him. I think that's just facts. And I think he's playing to the level that I think he is, which is a good, serviceable SEC quarterback.
I think he's growing. Like Arch Manning these last few weeks versus where he was early in the year, he's grown as a player.
He has. And I think Sark has grown as a play caller around him as well. And I think that, and those are things that you don't talk about, right? Like people don't talk about week to week is the growth and all that. And toward the end of the year, you can look back and see all that. So I'm hoping for a great game. I think this will be a great game. But man, it's a Georgia Bulldog type of game here. They win these sort of games unless Gunnar Stockton gets hurt, unless certain things outside of the normal realm of a football game happen. They win these games.
I'll tell you what, Texas just needs to take the Longhorn logo off. They need to put numbers on their helmets. Okay. And then, they'll win.
Darken their color to more of like a red color.
Yeah, they got to do that. Just copy the uniform style.
Yeah. Well, guys, thanks for watching. It's been 3 bold takes. We just did 6 or 7 games here on week 12 of the college football season. I'm Freddie, been joined by Quinn. I appreciate you watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week as always.